Welcome to the USA Muay Thai podcast. We are your hosts, Jeffrey Dohio and Perry Aryafar. I'm going to introduce Jeff. Jeff is the USMF's Chief Brand Officer, head of the media team. He's done a million things for a million people. You've probably seen his pictures somewhere on the internet. Your favorite fighters all have had their pictures taken by Jeff. And now he is my lovely co-host for this podcast.
And I have the luxury of working with Perry Aryafar, who is a social media manager, also has done amazing work as the team photographer and has been on multiple international trips with the adults and the youth division of our federation. And today we bring you our first podcast. So Perry, what's going on?
So first, let's talk about why are we doing this podcast? Why are we bringing you this media? Maybe you're listening to it in your car. You're watching it when you're supposed to be working. You're just so in love with Muay Thai. You cannot get enough of us. We wanted to share what's happening within the USMF, especially as the qualifiers are coming up.
Yeah.
There's so much information coming at you so fast. So we wanted to put it all in one place, also get to talk to some of your favorite athletes, really big, important people in the community that we'd like to have them share their voice and, a place for you to find all your USA Muay Thai news.
Yeah, I think also it's also a part of like informing people and educating people about IFMA's rule set, how to be more competitive as an athlete, events that are happening in regards to the USMF that people should be aware of. Because I think it's important because we're having a bunch of things that are happening, but a lot of people aren't informed about like our events and the actual why this is so important. So that's why we're bringing this to you guys.
So we'll first start with the World Games qualifiers. Our guest this episode is Janet Todd, one championship champion fighter, world champion, and Troy Trouble Jones. He fights now for Glory. He's a gold medalist for USA Muay Thai. Both very incredible athletes. We brought them on to talk about their experiences at the 2017 World Games. And we want to share why the World Games qualifiers are so important, why everybody should be either tuning in or trying to participate, how this is really going to change Muay Thai in the United States for the better.
Yeah, I think it's also important to understand their experience with World Games because, it's different from what we're doing this year. We're inviting people to compete for spots versus these athletes had to compete around the world to earn points to compete at the World Games. So just to reiterate, back when they were fighting, when the World Games happened in Poland, they had to medal at an international tournament in order to get an invitation to compete at the World Games. Because the World Games is happening here on our soil, we have the luxury of filling every weight class. So you no longer have to win an international tournament to fight at the World Games. You just have to compete with the best guys in your weight class. So I think it's going to be one of the best tournaments that we're ever going to have in the United States, something that may never happen again because the World Games only happens every 4 years, right? Kind of like the Olympics. So how often is it ever going to come back to America? We don't know.
And also during these qualifiers, it's not just these great, amazing fights that are coming up. There's several events. There's also the judge and referee clinic. JJ and Stefan, the two head officials of the judge and ref division of the USMF, are part of this clinic, and Gunter Plank made IFMA rule set. So it's definitely something you don't want to miss. And also the media team is having our own clinic where we're going to go over photography for IFMA and sports photography, social media, videography, all the things that we want to share so athletes and coaches can really improve their gym, improve their own branding, and help put themselves out there to get sponsorships or more opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, what's cool is for our media kind of clinic, it's everyone that has their specialty will be speaking at one point or another. So we're going to have Dustin, who's our lead designer, kind of talk about design, branding, style guides, and just keeping an overall aesthetic. Rosie, who has jumped on, one of the most important and amazing volunteers from Chicago, Coach Rosie. She is an expert in the field of video and video making, and She will also talk about cinematic steps of creating motion. And then we're going to have Perry, who's an amazing photographer. And she also implemented the process of how we cull images, upload images, and, at a timely manner. And I will oversee overall photography and what we're looking at in regards to branding and how to make your photography better. So it's really important, not only for fighters, photographers, but business owners that really want to elevate their brand game, because it's cool to have a brand, but if you don't know how to use that brand and elevate it into different ways, you're missing out on a lot. And I think, myself and you as a part of the media team, we really helped elevate the USMF that way.
So you can register for the Judges and Referees Clinic on Our Sports. You should do that ASAP because those spots are filling up. And the Media Clinic will have more information in the next 2 weeks, how you can be involved.
What do you feel like this is going to be? It's going to be kind of like an expo, right?
Like a Muay Thai festival. Like I've been to one in LA and it was a martial arts expo and people were dressed up in some people were dressed up in like Dragon Ball Z stuff, and then other people were dressed up like in martial arts stuff. But it was really cool because you got to like experience these people's love for the sport. So I think the exciting part about this is people are going to get to meet their like favorite athletes. They're going to get to talk to coaches that they've only seen online. Like
right.
This is one of really the first times ever everyone involved in USMF, USA Muay Thai is going to be in one place for this single goal. I really think everybody should take advantage and try to interact any way that they can with this.
Right. So I guess we're also working on a live stream for the event, right? And that's something we're working on. And we're also selling tickets, right? So we're going to have single day passes and 4-day passes and VIP tickets. We haven't really kind of solidified that yet, but that's what's going to be in the works, right?
Yeah, for people to come attend. And also there's going to be vendors there, Muay Thai specific vendors. Right. So you're going to be able to buy shorts and your mouth guards and gloves and also watch these really great fights. Like this is something that's the event of the US for this year.
I think in the next 4 years at least, because this is the first time we're going to have pros compete with amateurs for a spot to win actual gold medals. That's just one step forward to the Olympics. Where the event is going to be held where, Perry?
It's going to be in Denver, Colorado, Foothills Field House.
It takes a lot to put this together, and there are a lot of volunteers here that are putting their heart and soul and just love for Thai boxing into this. And this is the first time the USMF has done anything of this caliber, which is our very first tournament. It's a high capacity tournament. I hope that the USMF can do this every year to actually, filter out the best of the best, because that's who we need to compete with. We are a nonprofit. We're looking for people to help, that want to help the sport grow, that want to help these athletes win. Your donation not only helps us, but it also helps the athletes with their an all expense paid trip to the World Games itself. And that's like travel, stay, a per diem, so we can fund our athletes and finally have the means to do it. And, with your help and your love of the sport, we can do that together. So hopefully if you see this donation button down, you could go ahead and donate whatever you can, $5, $10, $1, whatever you can. We understand that not everyone can donate a ton of money, but anything helps. And if you can't donate yourself, maybe you could share the link to someone that can. So, we're also looking for vendors. There's also a deadline, right, of vendors and actually platinum to silver, gold medal. So many different levels of sponsorship that I've been trying to work on with everyone, that will have information out there. Perry, could you speak to that a little bit about the sponsorships and the vendors?
Yeah, so the deadline to sponsor the event or be a vendor at the event is February 24th. Hard deadline. Don't call on February 25th because unfortunately we can't take you. As far as vendors go, you're going to have a booth at the event where you can, sell your stuff. And again, this is such a huge opportunity because all the elite athletes are going to be there, the coaches, spectators. It's a huge opportunity. And for sponsors, like Jeff was saying, this really helps put together, the way for our athletes to go, as someone who's done IFMA several times, Jeff also had the same experience. And this isn't something that anybody, I think, really talks about. Every single person from myself and Jeff to the USMF president, we're all volunteers, which means we do this out of our own pockets, our own money to be able to go. And we know that the athletes have to do the same thing. The goal that we have is to make it so these athletes can go without having to worry about the cost, that their worry is going to be about the fight, which I think everybody in the US could agree that's what we all want for the athletes.
Right.
For those who don't know, now I live in Amsterdam. I'm in the Netherlands in Europe, and I see how differently government funding is for athletes in Europe, the ways that they get help. And some athletes don't get help here either. They also have to pay out of pocket. So I think it's something very important for people to know about the USMF. Like when we say nonprofit and volunteers, that means we are all doing the same thing. We're all doing this. We're all volunteering for this because we care. And having a sponsorship really makes a difference between a fighter worrying about how are they going to cover their hotel or being able to focus on the fight.
Exactly. And it takes a lot of pressure off them because we need them to compete. And, you know, my dream for the USMF is to finally fund each athlete wherever they go around the world. And I'm putting a lot of my effort into this and a lot of my resources into just wanting to help make an impact in the sport. And that's kind of like why all of us are here in the USMF. We want to make the sport better. And with your help, you know, we're one step forward in that direction.
For certain. And I think what you can see from the athletes that USMF has helped produce over the last several years, like our two guests today, Janet and Troy, other really high caliber athletes that have came out of the United States. If you've watched IFMA, you know that we have very strong fighters, but there's still a long way to go. And it's tournaments like this and availabilities like this that are going to really help elevate the level of Muay Thai. Later on, you're going to hear from Janet, her thoughts on how we can make stronger American fighters, and that's more competing. It's very difficult for our athletes to compete often if they don't have the support. So like Jeff was saying, that $5 that maybe you're going to spend on Starbucks, if you can help donate that towards our athletes, that really adds up and makes a difference.
Yeah. Also, on top of that, how Janet said how it helped her, Troy also is seeing such a dramatic change in the young people in Muay Thai. So I think they should stay tuned for this. And, you know, without further ado, let's get our show on the road. JT's here. Thank you, JT, for joining us on the very first USMF USA Muay Thai podcast. So we're kind of winging it today. We brought you here.
I like winging it.
We brought you here because, you know, you're one of the only few Americans, well, the only two Americans that I know of have competed at the World Games in Poland. I think that was 2018, 2016?
No, 2017.
2017. So if you could give everyone a brief description of who you are and, you know, let them know what you've done for the USMF and some of your accolades, that'd be great.
So I'm Janet. I've been doing Muay Thai for a long time, representing Boxing Works under Bryan Popejoy. I've been doing a lot of these IFMA tournaments towards, I think, between 2015 and 2018. I did like the Pan Ams, the World Championships, and I was fortunate enough to get invited to the World Games, so I was able to participate in that, and was able to get a bronze medal in that competition. And now I am a professional Muay Thai and kickboxer, fighting for one championship.
My name is Troy Trouble Jones. I've been training for like 8 years now. I've been competing professionally for 4. I've won IFMA World Championships in 2015. I was Pan American champion in 2016. I was a World Game qualifier in 2017. lived, moved to Thailand, trained, fought out there. And I'm now like the top 10 in Glory Kickboxing in the welterweight division and top 10 in Muay Thai at 178, I believe.
To know as far as the World Games qualifiers, we are trying as the media team to really emphasize to American fighters that the World Games is not just another tournament, and these qualifiers are not just another tournament. It's like a very special selection process. There's so much thought going into every aspect of it, and we wanted you to let the fighters know why participating in these World Games is so important. Like, how can it change your career or make opportunities for you, especially if you haven't had the chance to fight abroad or international fighters?
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to fight internationally, it's like getting into as many of these types of tournaments as you can, like I said, would build up that experience for you, build up sort of that knowledge base of the various different ways people fight. So having that experience in ring time is very important, because sparring in the gym isn't the same as when you're, put in a ring against somebody who wants to knock you out, right? And to be able to implement what you did in practice under pressure is something different than when you're sparring. So getting that ring time is really important, and being able to fight, like, those brackets are supposed to be our top level fighters in each of those weight groups. So being able to see how you stack up against our best fighters and being selected to be part of the World Games after that, the qualifiers, means you're the best in that weight group. So, you deserve to be part of the World Games to fight against the best, the rest of the best. But to me, it's always been about getting that ring experience, being able to execute under pressure, building that confidence and mentality through these experiences is what got me to where I am. So, to be honest, I don't like to put a lot of pressure on a single tournament or a single fight, because that applies unnecessary pressure on you, and with unnecessary pressure, you just get really stiff, and I get mental blocks when I'm under that much pressure. So mentally going in, even though this tournament, is the qualifiers and can get you that opportunity to fight in the World Games, I hope people would think about it as it's just another single tournament in my long career. So it's my turn to have fun and show people what I got, and see how much I've, developed in the past year or past couple of years since I started.
So like just being able to see where you stack up and seeing where you rank, and being able to come out as the victor, like that's going to give you confidence. And even if you lose and you fight really good, it should give you confidence to keep pushing forward. And then just the World Games in itself, like just being able to represent our country, for one, and in a sport where we don't dominate. So now it's like we get an opportunity to kind of build our own legacy moving forward from this point. So a lot of groundwork has been laid over the years, even prior to me. Like I wasn't even fighting them, but like 2009, like this stuff has been building since those teams, and like we're getting to a point where our level of competition is rising. So this is an opportunity for the people that are competing in it, and to kind of keep raising the bar for the next generation that's going to keep coming up and behind us. So like I see a lot of young kids that are moving to Thailand from America and just living over there and just to fight, which is dope. Like prior to me, I didn't grow up fighting. So being in like moving to Thailand was never on my mind. So the more that they do that, the better it'll be for the knowledge of learning what it is.
What was like having your own coach, Bryan, there at the World Games? Like that must have been pretty interesting. Also being a part of a small team. It was just you and Troy representing America. Let's talk about that for a little bit, that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's always comforting to have. I trust him 100%. He knows the game. He knows what I'm capable of. So I know that in the corner, if he tells me to do something,
Yeah.
I got to do it.
That's funny.
But also just, having him there is just comforting because, he's my coach, my friend, mentor, psychologist,
Yeah.
everything, you name it.
That's what a coach kind of has to be, right? In order to get their fighter to where they need to be. On top of that, all your other responsibilities back home. But
I know it's so hard to be a coach.
It's hard. I mean, and you're not the only one he has to take care of. People have to understand when just because Janet is a top dog doesn't mean Bryan doesn't have other puppies that are biting at his legs to become those top dogs too. Not saying that boxing works are a bunch of puppies, but you understand what I'm saying. I got love for you guys.
Bryan's dope. I fought. He coached me every time that I've done IFMA almost, except for Sweden. So it's been him, Ricardo, and Beecher.
Fresh.
So those three have been the coaches that I've had every time that I've done, or Corley. So every time that I've done IFMA, it's been one of them. So I've had some really, really, Bryan's dope. He's really calm. He knows how to get his point across in a calm fashion where you're going to understand it when high intensity situation. We got to work a little bit. Just see stuff like that I did, and then he would just kind of help improve. Because when you're training with those guys for that short amount of time, it's kind of hard to you're preparing for a fight, so it's kind of hard to put anything new in. So
exactly,
it's
exactly.
Yeah, we just got to work a little bit, get some new wrinkles. He put me on to one thing that I remember vividly in that first year that I did IFMA was he put me on to doubling up the cross after I land. So usually you don't see it. So I ended up landing it a few times in the final fight for the gold medal, and now it just kind of sticks with me now.
You mentioned the improvement of Muay Thai in the U.S. and how much has changed since you went to the World Games. Where do you see still, especially now that you also coach, room for improvement still in the U.S.? What do you think still needs to be done for us to keep going forward?
We need to be able to compete. The younger pros, high-level amateurs, they need to be competing more. And it's been hard, because the past couple of years, this is what we've experienced with COVID. So that's what we're experiencing. So being able to compete more and being able to compete against the best competition. So that's the only way that it can keep elevating. Because if we continue to do the local regional shows where they're just getting people who sell tickets, that's not doing the level or the knowledge of the sport any justice if they're not a good Muay Thai practitioner. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, just that's what I see. And I was fortunate enough to be able to compete, and the way that I did it, I was willing to pay for my flight, my plane ticket anywhere, as long as hey, get my hotel. I'm willing to pay for my own stuff. Just let me get the opportunity to fight in these different regions. And that's how I got onto different regional shows in different areas. Being from Minnesota, we have a really good scene here where we get, because we're close to Iowa where Pam and all them are. So we get a good scene here, but it's more important to be able to see where you're at against all the other good fighters that are winning tournaments. You know what I'm saying?
Ring time is the most valuable time to improve athletes. Is there anything else that you'd like to see improve and grow in the U.S. as far as Muay Thai or combat sports?
Consistent judging. The way IFMA scores is definitely very different than how I've seen local shows get get scored. So I know it's a very difficult thing to do, to get everybody on the same page, all the judges on the same page. Because I think in California, sometimes we have like a karate guy come in and be a judge or something like that. So, having everybody be brought up on if you're going to have a rule set, have a rule set that's consistent. I think that would help us at least, because then you're getting experience in that same rule set to get better.
You said something that was really amazing about scoring. And I think that's the misconception. I think the people that have been invited to this tournament that we're holding don't have that understanding about scoring. Can you kind of briefly talk about the scoring criteria that is different from USA and IFMA rule set?
A lot of it, I mean, like, it varies from like country to country, like, as far as who's judging. Like, each country might have something they're more that they like to see more. So, but like everything counts the same. Like, there isn't like a weight system for the points. So like, say a body kick, it counts the same as a punch. So it's kind of just like seeing, like, it's just like being in there, being dominating. You just got to dominate, really. It's kind of hard to explain from me, because I'm not like a judge. I just know how I like to fight, and how I like to fight in IFMA tournaments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think it is different, just like in people understanding of Muay Thai. That's what I think the difference really is, the understanding of Muay Thai and being able to
apply it.
Every fighter can put it together throughout the 3 rounds. So
yeah, I also was, when my experience of watching different tournaments around the world for the USMF, I also noticed that, composure is looked at, balance is looked at, defense, how you can be more defensive and how that can score more for you if someone's just throwing random things at you, and how good your Muay Thai looks, right? If your Muay Thai looks spectacular, I think that's something that they always weigh in on, versus I think in America, it's like output, right? Output and damage.
Like, for me, like, that's something that is second nature. So it's not even like, it's basic for me too. So like, when I'm explaining, that's why like I have to have someone ask me questions. Like, all that stuff is basic, like Muay Thai. Like, you want it to look pretty. You want to be beautiful violence. You want to be balanced. You want to be able to kick and come back and defend. So that's like, man, that's
the ABCs of Thai boxing for you, right?
Yeah.
That's also because you lived in Thailand for such a long time that it's been ingrained in you. So, we got to kind of like take an out of body experience, and Troy's floating around the United States and seeing people only training in their home city, never been to Thailand. So if you look at that, it is like the basics. You have to have amazing basics, foundation of Thai boxing.
The foundations is everything.
Yeah.
Your stance and your balance and how you're moving. Like, I teach this when I'm teaching my sparring classes. It's like, footwork is everything. If your feet are in a better position and quicker, like, you're going to be able to attack the fin faster.
Right. How did you get invited to the World Games?
I believe I won IFMA in the 2015. And then I guess that kind of gave me the first initial push with the qualifications. And then I was invited to the Pan American Games, which was a qualifier for the World Games.
That was in Peru, right?
Yeah.
And then you, Corley, Janet, I think Gabe, and one more person went to Peru, right?
It was me, Corley, Gabe, Janet.
And one more person.
Who was? Oh, and Martin.
And how did you guys do at the Pan Americans? I think Janet lost that one, right? She lost when she won silver.
She did. I don't know. I can't remember, but she fought well.
Yeah.
Like, the girl she fought was good. Like, she was approving. Like, the girl she fought was, she went to IFMA too. So
yeah.
He was fighting someone good.
I
fought, who did I fight? I fought Scott McKenzie from Canada.
Oh, yeah?
And then I fought Giovanni Mazzetti.
And you won gold that year?
Yeah.
Sick. Those guys are amazing fighters. Like, People don't know,
good.
right? Like Gabriel, I think he was what top king fighter also. He was top
Not
king.
Gabriel, Giovanni.
Giovanni was top king
Giovanni,
also.
Giovanni, yep. Both
And
of them.
and
So
Scott's
both
one,
of the brothers.
And Scott is one of the best athletes in Canada at that weight class, and
Yeah.
he's won multiple
Yeah.
medals in the Pan Americans as well. So that's
Yep.
that was no joke right there for at least your weight class in North America.
Yeah.
I think you could say those are the best guys in the Pan Americans at your weight class.
Yeah, probably I would say so. Yeah, I mean, there's guys coming up though.
Yeah.
But at that time, I believe that, yeah, they were the best.
What was your experience like in Poland at the tournament? Who did you fight, and what happened in that tournament for you?
So the first fight I had was against France, a guy from France. I don't know his name. I don't know his name, but I know that he's fought some really good guys like Toby Smith, and so he was a really good guy to fight. And like he was real, like I don't know, he kind of moved like explosive, like how I move. So it was a good challenge just to have someone that moved kind of similar to me, and I won. That was the semifinals, I think the semifinals or the quarterfinals. And then I fought what's his name, Vital Haruk. He's like Belarusian. He's like 17-time IFMA champion.
Damn.
So I fought him, and I don't know, the first round I felt like I think it was the first round. I kind of like, we were fighting, we had a good first round, and then we kind of got in a clinch situation. And this is a lesson that I learned. And the ref was like in between us. So I'm like, I relaxed a little bit to like let the fight break. Then he pulled me down and kneed me in the face, which is my fault because I should be ready at all times. But and then he TKO'd me after that, just with punches. Couldn't kind of get my composure back. I think my nose got busted up. And my shin, I had a busted open shin too. So it was just like a lot of bad things that went into that for me. Like right before the fight, I kind of scraped my shin and kind of opened up the cut on my leg again because it had just healed like 6 weeks prior. Because I was fighting in Thailand and it had just healed. It was a tough fight. That's one of those ones where I took it pretty hard because like it was a lesson that I had to learn. Like make sure that don't ease up at all. Like, there should be no point in time where I'm easing up in a fight where the dude is trying to knock me out.
Yeah, because I know that when I watched IFMA fights, they didn't stop even though the ref yelled break. The ref had to physically stop you and pull you apart because even though they're yelling break, they're still trying to land until they get physically stopped and pushed against the rope and split.
Yep.
So I knew that.
And it was like, it was a situation where like there was nothing happening. Like it was a stall. The ref kind of like got in between us, and then he just pulled me down. I relaxed, pulled me down, boom, right in the face, right in the nose. I'm like, what was that? And then I was like, all right, Bryan was in my corner, so he was like, all right, don't breathe, don't blow your nose, just all right, you gotta go now. All right, he's up. I'm like, all right. So then I get up, get hit in the nose right away again, like boom, and then the ref kind of just hopped in. There was a lot of blood. So
another question about the World Games is how did that help your career?
I can't say just the World Games helped my career. I think everything leading up to, everything before and everything after, just my whole fighting experience in general got me to where I am. But I think the tournaments especially, they're so different than just the one-off fights that you're used to. Yeah. Because you could fight the next day and the next day after. For the World Games, I fought three days in a row. Jeez. And you're not fresh obviously you're not fresh, right? You might have banged up shins, but you gotta, if it hurts, you still gotta fight. You gotta figure out other weapons to use.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out other weapons to use, or you just, keep hurting it. I don't know. But
have you had major injuries? Have you had major injuries when you were in the tournaments?
I just banged up shins going into things, and obviously like just muscle soreness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another aspect of it that you have to be mentally prepared for. Is you're not going to be 100% going into some of these, after your first round, you're not going to be 100% your second fight or your third fight, because you are fighting those top level fighters. There's not going to be an easy fight. So you just have to be mentally prepared that, okay, well, I can have banged up shins. It's okay. If my left shin's banged up, I'll use my right. If not, I'll set up my hands and, kick them when they're not, when their defenses are down.
Right.
So that's part of that, being able to adapt and being able to use whatever you have at your disposal and knowing what you can use at the right time.
I think it helped me quite a bit, just knowing, like, the biggest thing was the confidence, because I know that I'm in an upper echelon in the world.
Right.
I've proven it as a amateur fighting against professionals with quadruple the experience that I have. So it helped me in that aspect, and then it helped me with just learning technique and being how to become a pro, how to fight the game, and knowing. And then obviously the exposure that I was able to get helped me get into glory and having the resume that I have, and that helped me get to where I am and the respect that I have. And it's just been built up from those early days of those. Okay. Hey, hold on real quick.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I got the back.
No problem. We're taking a potty break with Trouble Troy Jones Jr. It's potty time. So all the fighters that have families, definitely we could take potty breaks if that needs to happen.
You competed way back in 2017, and now we're entering 2022. This new World Games coming up, the level of athletes has really changed, and Muay Thai in general across the U.S. has changed. What are the other changes you've seen from the sport of Muay Thai over the last couple of years?
The USMF as an organization has, really developed and has started to, I think you guys have classes on judging and, just being able to be part of these tournaments, to be able to scout out some of these talents, to be able to put together a world-class team. But I think I know everything costs money. And I think that's why maybe we don't have as many, as much tournaments as some of the European countries have. But I think, like I said, it's experience that gets you better. So if we have more of these tournaments, I think it'll get everybody that experience they need to be able to fight at these world championships or world games.
People's style, it's really good. Like, a lot of people that I've watched, like younger people that I watched are like Jaleel. He's really good. Like, he is made the sacrifices to get good, and like that's what the sport needs, because that's what everyone is doing around the world. So like, just seeing the level improve and the knowledge and how the style looks is good.
As far as your teammates and also some of your peers who have been USMF athletes, what are the opportunities that you get once you kind of make it to that world stage? Like, once you are competing internationally, what are the things that become available to you?
When you're able to fight on the world stage like that, you'll get some recognition, which will then turn into opportunities to fight for bigger organizations and for other, big local shows, that then raises more recognition to be able to get more of these opportunities. And I think that's what I was fortunate enough to do.
Well, I think, I just want to say thank you for your time, Janet. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's so nice to see your face here, and we get to chat a little bit. And I'm sure I'll be back at your gym and I'll visit you guys soon. Just thank you so much for taking your time on Sunday morning and putting a nice hat on and a nice little jean jacket to talk about Muay Thai with us. Thank you for everything you've done for the sport. You've been really inspirational to a lot of athletes. You really defined what I feel Muay Thai is in the United States, especially for females. You've opened a lot of doors and are paving the way for even younger females to follow your path. So we just want to give you your flowers to say thank you for everything you've done for the federation, and you've done for our sport. You've been an amazing example of American Muay Thai and an ambassador internationally. So thank you, Janet Todd. You're the best. May you
You're gonna make me blush.
and get that Muay Thai one Muay Thai championship belt. So you'll be the first American female two division champion. And I see that in your stars. So I look forward to your next matchup at one.
Thank you to you guys for, letting the world know about USMF and what, helping bring awareness to the sport. I would love to see it be part of the Olympics, and you guys are at the forefront to bring awareness to Muay Thai, and also just showcase USA, the USA team and their skill set.
Well, thank you, Troy, for making time for us and talking to us, especially we know you have your training and your family and everything else going on for you.
Yeah, it's my wedding anniversary today.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, luckily my wife, she's out getting her nails done some long time. So that's why I'm with the kids.
Awesome, Troy. Thank you so much, Troy, for your time. I appreciate you, man. I know that I'm a big fan of you, and I know Perry's a big fan, and you've been
Vice versa.
Yeah, you've been an amazing example of what American Thai boxing should be. You've been a great ambassador of the sport, and you continue to be. And we wish you nothing but luck. Thank you for your time, Troy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you guys for listening to our show. We had two really amazing guests, Troy Trouble Jones and Janet JT Todd, our awesome guests. What did you think about the show, Jeff, our first one?
I thought it was pretty good since, we kind of just said, hey, let's make a podcast. And we made a podcast. It wasn't really scripted or anything. We kind of met in the morning and put it all together. But, it was about bringing this information and experience to the people that are going to compete in the World Games by two athletes that have competed in the World Games. And also looking at what they've done with their career, right? Like you said, there's kind of like a trajectory. You win the local tournaments, you get on a Pan American, you win that. You get in a world championship team, you win that or medal. Then you get into a whole plethora of opportunity from glory to one and a line fight. There's a lot of our athletes now that have progressed and they're actually in the tournament. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you guys for stopping by. Watch out for our second episode. It'll be more entertaining as well.
This episode was brought to you by West Coast Muay Thai. Join the movement.